We live in a really fascinating time. We live in a world where, thanks to the internet, anyone can become a certified pet nutrition specialist in 8 hours for only $295. The remarkable thing is that sounds very close to board-certified veterinary clinical nutritionist, of which I trained 14 years to establish that title, including a degree in veterinary medicine, 3 years as a resident in just dog and cat nutrition, a master's in biochemical and molecular nutrition, and passed a grueling 1.5-day examination. It may have also cost me just slightly more than $295, but hey, who's counting? We live in a world where the top Google search for vet and nutrition produces an article by a popular dog magazine that says vets know nothing about nutrition. And this breaks my heart. It absolutely breaks my heart. Unfortunately, over time, the veterinary profession has become negatively criticized about nutrition, despite the fact that we spend 4 years training specifically in dogs and cats and taking courses in things like biochemistry and digestive physiology, which, last time I checked, boils down to the science of nutrition, right? This negativity has plagued the veterinary profession, and as a result, I believe veterinarians are less likely to engage in nutrition conversations because of this negativity. We live in a world where ratings websites are seen as trusted resources for pet parents. These ratings websites, they use marketing terms like grain-free and poorly defined criteria like above average meat content, whatever that means. Things like cost to rate pet foods instead of looking at the nutrients in the foods, which is what we should be focusing on. Our pets have a requirement for nutrients. They don't have a requirement for fancy marketing terms or trendy ingredients. That's why you'll not hear me talking about a dog meeting their daily blueberry or wild-caught salmon requirement. There just isn't one. We live in a world where passion for a particular feeding practice has become the equivalent of expertise. Back in the day when I was in high school, I was already really passionate about pet nutrition, but I must confess that I believed in some not so very scientific recommendations at that time in my life. I bought into the marketing around pet food because it was so incredibly convincing. And at that point in my life, I had no idea how to look up an article, let alone interpret research that is peer-reviewed and scientifically founded. I also had no idea that the most important statement on the pet food package is the nutritional adequacy statement, not the ingredient list. And I've forgiven myself because I realized that I didn't know what I didn't know. And this has taught me that in my heart of hearts, I believe everyone who makes pet food recommendations does it with the absolute best of intentions. Unfortunately, best of intentions are not a substitute for expertise. We live in this world where those with very little training in cats and dogs become experts on the internet, and veterinary professionals with extensive training in dogs and cats can become disheartened and really shy away from having nutrition conversations. I believe that many of us as veterinary professionals are suffering from what I call nutrition fatigue. We are tired of having the same conversation about nutrition appointment after appointment because we don't feel the message is getting across. Because on the internet, there are a plethora of resources that are giving an opposing message. We just can't keep up with it. So what can we do in this fascinating and, yes, sometimes frustrating world we live in? What can we do when anyone can call themselves a pet nutritionist? What can we do when anyone who is a passionate person about a particular feeding practice is seen as an expert? What can we do when anyone can put not so credible information on the internet? We have to focus on the things that only the veterinary team can do. The veterinary team is the only team that that can complete a nutritional assessment for an individual dog or cat. And this is why I truly believe the veterinary team is a critical part of helping pet parents determine what food to feed to their beloved cats and dogs. I travel a lot for a living, and I spend a lot of time on airplanes. It is not unusual for me to strike up a conversation with my seatmate. Yes, I'm one of those people. I'm sorry if that's ever been you. But inevitably, once they find out I'm a board-certified veterinary nutritionist, because they usually didn't know those existed, they ask me, what's the best food for my pet? And I'm very quick to tell them that is not an easy answer. I don't know how old their pet is. Are they spayed and neutered? How active are they? What food are they on? What treats are they getting? What human foods do they get? What supplements and medications do they take? How are they doing on those things? When was the last time they had a vet exam? What's their body condition? Are they overweight? Any concerns about muscle condition? What about the hair coat? By the time I start asking them about their pet's bowel movements on the airplane, they have stopped talking to me altogether. But hopefully, I have illustrated to them that a good nutrition recommendation is not a grand vision or it doesn't come from a crystal ball. It's a result of a nutritional assessment from a veterinary team for an individual pet. And there are really only 3 very quick steps to completing a nutritional assessment. The first step is to have the client complete a diet history form before they arrive for the appointment. This will avoid the inevitable, I feed the blue bag from this store answer you will get if they fill it out in the waiting room. We need to know everything that client feeds from morning up until that pet goes to bed. We need to know every little snack, every little treat, every human food, every dish that gets cleaned before it goes in the dishwasher. We need to know. Step number 2, once you have reviewed the diet history form and you are about to go in the exam room, you need to take a deep breath. And I want you to remind yourself, no pet parent ever chooses to feed a food to make you mad. I'm going to say it again. No pet parent ever chooses to feed a particular food to make the veterinary team mad. They choose to feed a food because they love their pet, and they often have access to very different resources than we do when it comes to making a decision about pet nutrition. The third step here is really to complete it after you've done your physical exam and you've taken your full medical history. Once you've got all that information, I want you to complete a 1-minute simple checklist to find out if there are any nutrition risk factors. Nutrition risk factors could be things like multiple pets in a household competing for food. It could be an overweight body condition. It could be abnormalities on blood work or a urinalysis. It could even be that they're receiving too many treats and they're adding up to more than 10% of the pet's daily calories. It could be all of the above. Once you have that information, you're going to incorporate your medical history, your physical exam findings, any diagnostics that you performed, things that you're already doing in the exam already. But if you put all that information together, you can easily determine if a new diet plan is needed. And don't be afraid if you're setting up a patient on a new diet plan to get them in to specifically talk about the new diet plan. Certain plans that require extensive instructions, like an elimination diet trial or a weight loss program, require a detailed conversation in order to achieve compliance. And check-ins every 2 weeks were my go-to to keep pet parents on the wagon. We all fall off the wagon with our own diet plans, and pet parents are no different. Seeing them every 2 weeks gets them back on the wagon and allows you this opportunity to build an amazing relationship with your clients. I sometimes felt like I was stalking my weight loss clients, but in a really nice, supportive way. So in this world that we live in, you may be thinking, Dr. Parr, that's great, but it won't happen in my clinic because. Hands up if you're thinking that. Be honest, right? So I have to remind you of one of my favorite quotes by Will Smith, the Fresh Prince himself. He says, There's a certain delusional quality that all successful people have to have. You have to believe that something different can happen. And I truly believe that if we show pet parents what veterinary teams can do for their pets when it comes to nutrition, we can turn the tide. In Uncharted, we were born to turn the tide. So be a little bit delusional with me. It starts with one nutritional assessment for one pet, and all of a sudden, all of the amazing pets that we get to work with are having nutritional assessments performed. So if you're ready to make nutrition fatigue a thing of the past, if you're ready to show pet parents what we can do for their pets, if you are ready to change the way you have nutrition conversations, then please join me in being a little bit delusional, because just maybe one day, not just anyone will be an expert in pet nutrition, because the veterinary team will be the obvious choice. Kibble Queen out.